The envelope felt heavier than it should have. My father's hand was steady as he placed it in mine, but his eyes, those cold, gray eyes held something I'd seen 1,000 times before. Victory he thought he'd won, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Aveline Dray. And I learned early that in my family, love was currency. Not the warm kind, the kind you trade for power. I grew up in a house that felt more like a museum. Every room was perfect. Every conversation was measured. My father, Bastian Dray, built an empire called Dray and Monarch Holdings. We rebuilt landmarks across Europe, castles, churches, buildings so beautiful they made people cry. But beauty has a price, and in our house, that price was freedom. My mother, Celeste, was the queen of that museum. She moved through rooms like a ghost, elegant, silent, never disagreeing. She taught me how to sit, how to smile, how to disappear when father was angry. I remember being 7 years old, sitting at the dinner table. I'd gotten an A on my math test. I was so excited to tell father. "That's expected," he said, not looking up from his plate. A Dray doesn't celebrate meeting expectations. My mother touched my hand under the table, a silent comfort. But she didn't defend me. She never did. That was the pattern of my childhood. Achieve, be ignored, try harder. Be told it wasn't enough. When I was 12, I asked him, "Father, what do I have to do to make you proud?" He looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. "Be useful to this family, not be yourself, not be happy. Be useful." I was 28 years old, and I'd spent every single one of those years trying to make my father proud. Top of my class, MBA from Oxford. I knew his business better than he did. I could read a contract in 3 languages and spot a bad deal from across a room. I worked 14-hour days. I closed deals he said were impossible. I brought in clients worth millions. But none of it mattered, because I wasn't his son. "When you marry," he told me once, "you'll marry someone who can expand our reach. Someone with connections. That's your value to this family. Not my mind. Not my work, my marriage." That's when I knew I would never be enough for him, not as I was. I met Evander Leclerc on a Tuesday in March. It was raining in Milan, and I was late for a meeting. I rushed into the conference room, soaking wet. And there he was, sitting at the end of the table like he owned the place. Dark hair, quiet smile, eyes that saw everything. "You must be Aveline," he said. His voice was calm, smooth. "I've heard a lot about you. I wish I could say the same," I replied. Sitting down, he laughed, not loud, just enough. "I prefer it that way." The meeting was about a property deal in Venice. Evander asked questions that showed he'd done his homework. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, every word mattered. After the meeting, he stopped me in the hallway. "Coffee?" he asked. "I don't have time," I said. "Then I'll make it quick." We went to a small cafe across the street. Rain tapped against the windows. He ordered an espresso. I ordered nothing. "You're good at what you do," he said. "Thank you. But you're angry." I looked at him sharply. "Excuse me?" "At that meeting, you were brilliant. But I could see it. You're fighting something." I should have been offended. Instead, I was curious. "And what makes you think that?" "Because I've been there," he said simply. "Fighting to prove something to people who'll never see you." Something in his words cracked me open. Just a little. That meeting changed everything. Evander was a strategic investor. He didn't build companies, he fixed them. Quietly, carefully, he moved money like chess pieces. Always 3 steps ahead over the next few months. We worked together on a deal in Venice. Late nights in boardrooms. Coffee at sunrise. He never raised his voice. But when he spoke, people listened. And somewhere between contracts and coffee, I fell in love. It wasn't sudden, it was slow. Like water wearing down stone, he asked me about my life, really asked. Not about the company or my father's plans, about me. "What do you want, Aveline?" He asked one evening. We were walking along the canal. "What do you mean?" If you could build any life, what would it look like? No one had ever asked me that, not once. I don't know, I admitted. Then maybe it's time to find out. I didn't tell my father right away. I knew what he'd say. Who is his family? He'd ask, what does his father do? Because in Aveline Dray's world, love wasn't about connection. It was about bloodlines and bank accounts. But Evander wasn't like the men my father approved of. The ones who showed up at our dinner parties with family crests and trust funds. The ones who saw me as a prize to win, not a person to know. Evander asked me about my dreams, my fears. What I wanted from life beyond the company name. I don't know, I admitted one night. We were walking along the canal in Venice. I've never thought about it. Why not? Because my life was already planned. By him. Evander stopped walking. He turned to face me. Then unplan it. It's not that simple. It is, he said. You just have to be brave enough. When I finally told my parents, we were having dinner. White tablecloth, crystal glasses, everything perfect. Father, I said, my voice steady. I'm getting married. My mother's fork paused halfway to her mouth. My father didn't even look up from his plate. To whom? He asked, his tone flat. Evander Leclerc. The silence was sharp enough to cut. My father set down his knife slowly. I don't know that name. You wouldn't, I said. He's not from our world. His jaw tightened. Where is his family from? Paris, but he built his own business, meaning he has no legacy. My father finally looked at me. No connections, no value. He has himself, I said. That's enough for me. It's not enough for this family. His voice was ice. You will not marry this man. I'm not asking for permission, I said quietly. I'm telling you. My mother touched my father's arm. Bastian, maybe we should meet him first. Maybe. No. His voice cracked like a whip. He looked at me for the first time and I saw it. Rage, cold, calculated rage. If you marry this man, you're no longer my daughter, you'll get nothing. No inheritance, no company, nothing. The words hung in the air like poison. My mother's face went pale. Bastian, please. I've made myself clear. He stood up. Choose wisely, Aveline. I should have been surprised. But I wasn't, because this was who he was. Control wrapped in love. Power disguised as protection. Then I guess I'm not your daughter, I said. I stood up and left. My mother didn't follow. The next 3 months were war. My father stopped speaking to me. He removed my name from company emails. He told associates I was taking time off for personal reasons. He even changed the locks on my office. I came in one Monday morning and my keycard didn't work. Security looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. Miss Dray, the guard said. Orders from Mr. Dray. I stood there in the lobby of the building I'd worked in for 6 years. My building, or so I'd thought, but I didn't stop. I kept working. I reached out to clients directly. I managed deals from my apartment. I showed everyone that I didn't need his approval to be good at what I did. Some clients stayed loyal to him, but many stayed loyal to me. Because I'd been the one doing the work all along. My father hated that. He started spreading rumors. That I was unstable. That I was making emotional decisions. That my little rebellion would burn out soon enough. She's always been dramatic, I heard he told people. This wedding is just another phase. But I didn't burn out. I burned brighter. Evander was my anchor, every night. He'd come home and hold me while I cried. He never told me to give up. He never said it wasn't worth it. He's scared, Evander said one night. He knows he's losing you. He already lost me, I whispered. Evander kissed my forehead. Then let's make it official. We decided to get married at Villa Aveline in Lake Como, Italy. It was small, intimate. Just close friends and a few family members who actually cared. I sent my parents an invitation. I didn't expect them to come, but I wanted them to know. I was moving forward with or without them. 2 days later, my mother called. I'll be there, she said quietly. What about father? Silence then. He said if I go, I'm choosing you over him. My heart broke. Mama, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I should have chosen you a long time ago. My mother called again 2 weeks before the wedding. Aveline, she said, her voice tight. Your father wants to see you. I don't want to see him. Please. There was something in her voice. Desperation, maybe, fear. Just once, before the wedding. He says it's important. Everything is important to him. Mama, I know, but please for me. I almost said no. But something in her voice made me agree. I met him at his office. The same office I'd been locked out of for months. The receptionist looked uncomfortable when she saw me. Miss Dray, he's expecting you. I walked through those familiar halls. Past the conference rooms where I'd closed my first deal. Past the photographs of buildings we'd restored. Buildings I'd helped save. His door was open. He was sitting behind his desk. Looking older than I remembered. Gray streaks in his hair. Lines around his mouth. Sit, he said. I stayed standing, he sighed, like I was a child misbehaving. Always stubborn. I learned from the best, he almost smiled. Almost. I've been thinking. About what? About you. About this. Wedding. I crossed my arms. I'm not changing my mind. I know. He opened a drawer and pulled out an envelope. Thick, white, official-looking, the kind we used for important contracts. He slid it across the desk. What's this? I asked. A gift, he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. It was that same smug smile he wore when he closed deals. When he thought he'd won, I picked up the envelope. It felt heavy. Too heavy. Open it on your wedding day, he said. It's tradition. A father's gift to his daughter. His voice was almost kind. Almost, but I knew him too well. Why? I asked. Because despite everything, you're still my daughter. He leaned back in his chair. And I want you to remember that on your wedding day. I want you to remember who you are, where you come from. I wanted to throw it back at him. Wanted to tell him I didn't need his gifts or his reminders. But I didn't. I took it and left behind me. I heard him say, "See you at the wedding." Aveline. I didn't turn around. The morning of my wedding was perfect. Sunlight poured through the glass ceiling of Villa Arline. White roses everywhere, the air smelled like lavender and champagne. My dress was simple silk and lace. Nothing too much, just enough. My mother came to help me get ready. She looked beautiful in a pale blue dress. Her hands shook as she helped me with my veil. You look beautiful, she whispered. Her eyes were wet. Thank you, Mama. She touched my face gently. I'm sorry. For what? For not being stronger for you. A tear slipped down her cheek. I should have protected you from him. But I was too weak. You're not weak, Mama. I am. I've always been. She kissed my forehead. But you're not. You're the strongest person I know. She left before I could respond, and I stood alone in the bridal suite. Staring at my reflection, the dress fit perfectly. My makeup was simple, my hair was loose, the way Evander liked it. I looked happy, and that surprised me because part of me thought I'd feel sad on this day. I looked happy at a day, and that surprised me because part of me thought I'd feel sad on the thought. I'd feel sad on this day. Sad that my father wasn't walking me down the aisle. Sad that our family was broken, but I didn't feel sad. I felt free, that's when I saw it. The envelope, I'd left it on the dresser. For a moment, I thought about throwing it away. About walking down that aisle without ever knowing what was inside. But curiosity won, I opened it. Inside wasn't money, wasn't a check. Wasn't a heartfelt letter wishing me happiness. It was a contract. Transfer of inheritance rights, conditional agreement. My heart started pounding. I scanned the pages, legal terms, cold, clinical. The language of business, not family. And then I saw the clause. Should Aveline Margaret Dray proceed with marriage to Evander Leclerc, she hereby forfeits all rights to inheritance, company shares, and assets held under Dray and Monarch Holdings. Effective immediately upon marriage. My hands started shaking. There was more pages of it, every detail spelled out. How I'd have no claim to the company. How any future children would have no claim. How I was, legally, cutting myself off from everything that bore the Dray name. At the bottom, in my father's handwriting, "This is to protect the family legacy. You chose him over us. Now live with that choice." I should have cried. Should have screamed. Should have run downstairs and thrown it in his face. But instead, I started laughing because my father had no idea. 6 months earlier, Evander and I had been working late on the Venice project. We were in his apartment, surrounded by contracts and coffee cups. He'd shown me a portfolio investments he'd made in architecture firms across Europe. Companies he'd quietly funded. Deals he'd structured. One name caught my eye. "Wait," I said. "You're invested in Dray and Monarch?" He looked at me steady, calm. "I'm your father's silent partner." He needed funding for the Prague deal. I provided it. I stared at him. "You never told me, because it didn't matter." Until now, he explained everything. 6 months ago, my father had taken on the biggest project of his career. A restoration in Prague worth 50 million euros. But he didn't have the capital, so he took on a silent investor, Evander. The contracts were complex, technical, but the core was simple. If my father defaulted on the loan, ownership of the company would transfer to Evander. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" I asked. "Because I didn't want you to think I had an agenda." He took my hand. "I love you, Aveline. Not your name, not your company. Not your father's empire, just you," and I believed him. "What are the chances he'll default?" I asked. Evander was quiet for a moment. "Hi. The Prague deal is behind schedule, over budget, he's bleeding money. If he doesn't deliver in 6 months, he's done, and you'll own the company. Technically." Yes, I looked at him, really looked at him. "And what would you do with it?" He smiled. Soft, gentle. "Give it to you." I didn't know what to say. For the first time in months I felt hope, real hope. "He doesn't know, does he?" I asked. "That you're the investor?" "No, the deal was structured through 3 different holding companies." "He has no idea. So while he's pushing me out, he's handing you everything." Evander squeezed my hand. "Karma works in mysterious ways. So when I stood there on my wedding morning, holding that cruel contract, I knew exactly what to do. I found a pen and I signed it. Every page, every line. Every place that said I was giving up my rights. I signed my name clearly, firmly, Aveline Margaret Dray. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and walked downstairs. The ceremony was beautiful. Evander stood at the altar in a black suit, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. My mother cried quietly in the front row. My father sat in the back, arms crossed. That smug smile still on his face when I walked down the aisle. I didn't look at him, I looked at Evander. At the man who saw me, really saw me. When the officiant asked, "Do you take this man?" I didn't hesitate. "I do." We kissed. Everyone clapped. And my father looked so satisfied. So sure he'd won. At the reception, he came up to me. Glass of champagne in his hand. That smile still there. "I hope you read my gift," he said. "I did," I replied. "And I signed it." His smile widened. "Good, then you understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." "Father," he raised his glass, "to new beginnings. And to knowing your place." I raised mine. "To family legacies. And to those who truly deserve them," he drank. I didn't. Across the room, Evander caught my eye. He nodded once. It was done that night, after the guests left. Evander and I sat on the balcony overlooking Lake Como. The stars were endless. The water was black and silver. "It's done," he said quietly. "The papers were filed this afternoon." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "What papers?" "The transfer. Your father defaulted on the Prague loan last week. He didn't tell anyone. He thought he could cover it with the Munich deal. But that fell through." Evander's voice was calm, almost gentle. "So as of today, Dray and Monarch Holdings belongs to me. I sat up. To you? He smiled. To us, I already filed the transfer. 51% goes to you, I keep the rest. Tears filled my eyes. Not sad tears. Something else. Something like freedom. So when he signed me out of the company ... I whispered, he signed it over to you anyway. Just through me. Evander took my hand. He was so busy punishing you. He didn't see what was right in front of him. I started laughing. And crying and laughing again. My father thought he was protecting his empire. Instead, he handed it to the daughter he tried to erase. How long have you known? I asked. That he default? 2 months, I tried to warn him quietly. Through his lawyers, but he's too proud to listen. Evander shook his head. He thought he could handle it alone, and that's what destroyed him. The next morning, my father called. Aveline. His voice was tight. Strained. We need to talk now. About what? I received some papers from Leclerc's lawyers about the company. Oh? I kept my voice light, innocent. This is a mistake, he said. Some kind of filing error. I need you to tell your husband to fix it. I don't think it is. Father, silence then. What did you do? His voice cracked. I didn't do anything. You did. I took a breath. You were so sure I'd fail without you. So sure I needed your name, your approval, your permission to exist. But you were wrong. This is theft, he hissed. No, this is business. You taught me that, remember? Business isn't personal, it's about contracts, terms. Following through on your obligations. I paused. You didn't follow through. So you lost? You can't do this. I already did, and you know what's funny? That contract you gave me, the one where I signed away my inheritance. It doesn't matter because by the time I signed it, you'd already lost the company, you just didn't know it yet. He was breathing hard. I could hear it through the phone. You planned this, he said. You and him. No, you planned this. Every choice that led here was yours. You chose control over love, power over family. You taught me that legacy is everything. Well, congratulations, you were right. Aveline, please. There was something in his voice. Something I'd never heard before, fear, real fear. You don't understand, he said. That company is my life. It's everything I built. Everything I am. I know, I said softly. And that's the problem. You built a company. But you forgot to build a family. Aveline, goodbye. Father, I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt light. Lighter than I'd felt in years. A week later, I walked into the Dray and Monarch headquarters. The same building I'd been locked out of, the same office I'd worked in for years. Security tried to stop me, but my assistant Marie, who'd stayed loyal even when my father told her not to, smiled and handed me a keycard. Welcome back, Miss Dray, she said. Or should I say, welcome home. I walked through those halls like I owned them. Because I did, employees stared, some looked confused, some looked happy. A few looked scared. I called a meeting. Everyone gathered in the main conference room. Good morning, I said. My name is Aveline Dray. Some of you know me, some of you don't. But as of this week, I'm the majority owner of this company, whispers. Confusion. I know there are questions. And I'll answer them, but first, I want to make something clear. This company was built on legacy. On reputation, on excellence, that won't change. What will change is how we treat people, how we do business, and who gets to lead. I looked around the room, at the faces, the fear, the hope. If you're here because you're good at your job, you'll stay. If you're here because of your last name or who you know, that ends now. We're building something real. Something fair and everyone gets a chance. The room was silent. Then Marie started clapping, slowly at first, then others joined. My father's office was empty. He'd already cleared out. Left behind a desk and a chair and nothing else. I stood at the window, looking out at the city. And I thought about everything that had led here. The years of trying to earn his love. The quiet nights wondering if I'd ever be enough. The moment I realized I didn't need his approval to know my worth. My mother called that afternoon. "Are you happy?" She asked quietly. "I am," I said. "Are you?" She was silent for a long time. "I don't know, but I think I'm proud of you. That means everything." "Mama, he's not speaking to me either," she said. "Because I came to your wedding. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's the first thing I've done in 30 years that was really mine." She paused. "I'm thinking about getting my own apartment. Starting over. I think that's a wonderful idea. It's scary," she admitted. "I know, but you're stronger than you think. Thank you." Aveline. Months passed. The company grew. Evander and I rebuilt it from the inside out, kept the name, kept the legacy, but made it ours. We promoted people based on talent, not bloodlines. We took risks my father never would have, and we won. My father tried to fight us. Lawyers, threats, he even went to the press, claiming I'd stolen the company through manipulation. But the contracts were clear, legal, binding. He lost every case. Eventually, he stopped trying. He disappeared into his house in Switzerland, alone 1 year after the wedding. Evander and I hosted a gala at Villa Arline. Same place, same roses. But this time it was a celebration. Dray and Monarch had just closed the biggest deal in company history. A restoration project in Paris that would define the next decade. My mother came. She wore blue, a color my father never let her wear. She said it was too bold. She also brought someone. A man named Thomas. Kind eyes, gentle smile. "He's a friend," she said, blushing. "He looks like more than a friend," she smiled. "Maybe?" "We'll see. You've done well," she said later, hugging me tight. "We've done well," I corrected. She smiled, a real smile. "Yes, we have." My father thought he was teaching me a lesson that morning. He thought that envelope would break me, would show me that love was weakness, that choosing my heart over his empire was a mistake. Instead, it freed me because the truth is, power doesn't come from control. It comes from knowing when to let go, when to choose love over fear, when to bet on yourself, even when no one else will.